Hello, everyone. This is Lisa from the Glorious Hoof. I did a little podcast recording with the first Student at Home podcast, and we mentioned that I was going to do a short little presentation to elaborate on what I was talking about in that podcast. So here we are. We're going to talk about posture, conformation, and the way that relates to the hoof from a farrier and trimmer's perspective. So let's dive in. Here we go. Today's discussion is going to be just about what is posture, what is conformation, some common limb deformities, and I'll go through some examples of limb deformities and how they affect the foot, and how does hoof care tie into all that. First off, we have a cute little picture of me as a little baby. Just had to put that in there because she's too cute and because she's a little baby foal. Now, conformation is basically a horse's physical structure. It's the way that their body is put together, and just because they change the way they're standing doesn't mean that it changes their posture, their conformation. So a horse might be, pigeon-toed, and you could make them stand straight, and then they're going to go back to pigeon-toed again. It's the way that their body is put together. A lot of people say that horses are born with their conformation, that it can't be changed, but I have seen too many things where a foal is not born with a conformational fault and then develops one later on, and vice versa. A foal is born with a conformational fault, and because of good management and good hoof care, that conformational fault goes away. And so I don't necessarily like to say that foals are born with certain conformation defects. On the other hand, posture is the way that a horse habitually stands, or I like to think of posture as the way they're standing and the way they're moving. So static posture is the way that they stand around, and dynamic movement is the way that they use their limbs. And that can be affected by conformation, definitely, but a horse can stand. Posture is, say, resting a hind leg. That's not conformation, that's posture. Posture is, standing with one hind leg back a little bit because they have a sore sacrum, for instance. And I've got an example of that further on. Common limb deformity. So basically, a horse's limb is a stack of bones on top of each other with joints in between. And the way that those bones are stacked on top and the way that gravity works on them causes either the limb to be straight or the limb to have deformities, right? So you have, in the joints, you have valgus or varus conformation. So valgus is where the joint will point away from the midline of the body, that way. And varus is where the joint will point towards midline of the body. So this poor horse here has got, I'll just use my mouse here, his knee here, he's got carpus varus, and then he's got fetlock valgus. And you can see his poor little limb goes in like a bit of a zigzag here, and then he's also quite badly pigeon-toed with a low conformational joint fault down here. So I've just listed here some of the basic. A lot of us are very familiar with these terms, bow-legged, knock-kneed, base narrow, base wide, pigeon-toed, cow-hocked, da-da-da. These are our basic limb deformities. Here we've got three different horses. So the pony on the left here, I've used this as an example of both posture and conformation. So conformationally, he's this leg in particular, he's carpus valgus, pointing towards the inside here, and then he's also turned out slightly, and so that's his conformation. The posture is he stands quite heavily on this leg, quite heavily on that leg, and you can see he's leaning over towards his left, which is the right side of the photo. So he's leaning off this leg, and he's also, look at this hind leg. Does that look like a supportive hind leg? Not really. He's leaning quite heavily on that left front. I trimmed this pony a very, very long time ago, so I can't remember why, but that's just a good example of subtle conformation issues and posture issues. And you can even see like the different shape of his shoulder, how this is more tense here. He's really using this side of his body quite heavily. This horse in the center here, yes, he's standing on a slight incline, but this is still his conformation. This leg here comes into the carpus or the knee, and then he's kind of straight, but his knee faces, like you can look at the way that the knee faces, and the whole limb should face the same way. If the way I look at limbs, right, is if we were to place a plane of glass straight through the limb, like this, is it straight or is it, you know, off center? Oh, that my tattoo makes it look very bad. Let's do the other arm. Is it straight? Or, you know, if that's straight, is it slightly off center? Is that plane of glass going to perfectly bisect that limb? So if we put our plane of glass through here, like it goes this way from the top of that leg. So he's got carpus valgus as well, pointing towards the midline of the body. And then also his fetlock turns out, and then he's also turned out in the foot on this one here. This guy here is very interesting. So he's similar. He's got that bench knee where the cannon bone does not. So you can see this leg here, the cannon bone does come out from underneath the middle of the knee, whereas this one, the cannon bone comes out from a little bit more laterally, so to the outside from underneath the knee. He's got more cannon bone on the outside than the inside of the knee. His knee is not particularly straight either. And his knee faces us. The cannon bone kind of faces us. The fetlock is turned in slightly, and then his pastern comes down, and his inside of his foot is jammed up, but then the outside is lower, and he's falling in on the inside here. That's not a very straight limb either. This here is this horse's left front foot, okay, from the sole. Let's have a look at this. So if we were to bisect this foot in half, what we would see is this is your inside, okay? And then when you pick up this foot, this is the inside here, all right? This is your inside here, this is your inside here, or a medial. Medial means, it's an anatomical term, directional term, means closer to the middle of the midline of the body, and then laterals to the outside. So this guy has got a huge lateral flare, right? Quite big, and the lateral heel you can see how it's run forward here. This heel is way back here. This heel is weight bearing here. So if you drew a line across, it's in front of the other one. This bar is really laid over and curled, and this big, it's just obvious, this big old flare here. He's not so bad sighting down the limb. But yeah, you can see that run forward heel, that big thing there, the big flare. But then you can see here that he wears his toe here because he's turned in, he breaks over. I've got a video of him later on of his movement. We'll show you. So there's that big outside flare. Can you see why he's got a big outside flare? Where's the limb point? Right there. If we were to take away heaps of that flare, well, he's trying to put the foot underneath the limb, basically. So trimming this guy is less about removing heaps of flare and more about trying to get the foot out of the way, because you can kind of see in this here, compare the wear pattern on this one. She's still pigeon toe, but not as bad. The whole thing looks a little bit about the same. This one is severely wearing here and growing long here, and he's got that big flare because it's right underneath where the limb wants to go. He's a quarter horse, by the way. It's interesting hoof conformation for a quarter horse. This horse got otherwise good feet. He's got a nice robust frog. You know, his heels are uneven, but he's got nice back of the foot. Most quarter horses you see are very narrow and upright. So this guy wasn't, this guy, going back to being foal, he would have straight legs if he had had proper hoof care as a baby. And I'll talk about that a little bit further. I'll have a rant. This guy's a thoroughbred. I'm pretty sure he was a thoroughbred. I haven't trimmed. His owner moved out of my area. So this is the first time I'd seen this horse. This is before my trim. I'd never seen him before. I would never leave the hoof wall looking that messy. It just, it gives me tweak eyes. Anyway, so this is your inside of the foot, obviously, and there's his other foot. This is the inside here. So you can see here that this guy leans heavily on the inside. Yeah, there's flare, but just ignore that's because he's got a bad club foot on the other side. This is his down foot. So he's got some bad flaring. But see how this wall is more upright because he's leaning heavily on it, and this wall is more flared. Let's correlate that to the feet. This is the inside. This is his more upright, and he curls this heel in, and he's curling it and leaning so heavily on it that he's actually cracked just forward of his heel and cracked his wall there, because this is curling in and this wants to flare out. So there's a disparate, like there's two opposite forces there ripping that foot apart. Over this side we have a more flared, this is this side, flare here, this flared heel here, and completely asymmetrical lateral cartilages. You can see his foot really does point, his foot points out, and you can see, like, I hold them underneath the cannon bone, so you can see this entire foot is pointing out away from the rest of his body, if you think the midline of his body's here. So that's the way that this horse's posture is affecting his feet, because he leans very heavily on the inside of that, so that everything's going out to the outside. All right, I had to throw this in. This is very dramatic. This is an aged pony mare, quite like a Shetland pony, with Cushing. She came from a rescue situation where she was completely neglected in a giant paddock full of grass for, I don't know, 15 years probably. She was 25 years old or so when she was put to sleep earlier, late last year, I think it was. But I started working on her in 2018. And as you can see here, this is her left hind foot. And yes, it's extremely dramatic. And yes, this is the sole. There's her frog. Yep, there's her heels. There's her bars. You can't really see, the bar is underneath the heel that's curled under. But you see she's standing on the backs of her heels. This is her weight bearing surface here. That's the backs of the heels, like the heel bulbs. That's where the central sulcus should be, or here. Everything is really heavily curling to the inside, because she used to stand, she had laminitis, so she was off her front end, and then her right hind, she must have had an injury or something, but the rescue didn't have unlimited funds to go chasing lameness issues, that upper body soreness or whatever, when the feet were the main priority. And she got around perfectly fine once her feet were good. So she would lean very heavily on the right hind, so heavily that it started to curl under. She flipped back onto her heels and curled under. And then this is what happened. This is the extreme situation. And I started to give her a little bit of a trim, nip, and I went, no, I can't do anything with this pony until I have radiographs. So the rescue got radiographs for me, and we worked off the radiographs. So I'll show you a few months later with this pony. Let me cast your eye over this. It's very dramatic. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh. So she's now standing on her sole. She still has a tendency to flip up on her heel when she's leaning very heavily on that side. And you can see here, much shorter foot, obviously, but you can see here she's still curling. Everything still curls this way. Look at that extreme curl to the central sulcus there, this is still not a healthy foot, but you can see how blood red everything is, like the bruising, but this is more usable. The way I would trim this was everything curled this way. So I would trim this because it flared to the inside. I'd open up the inside heel even more aggressively than what I have done here. I got more and more confident with this pony the longer she was on the books, obviously, because we understood what needed to be done. And I would more aggressively open up this frog as well. This needs to be open because it was all pulling there. So I'd open this up. Her whole frog would fold over this side, so I'd cut down and open this sulci up and make sure that her heels were way too long. Look how long they were. She can't stand on that. That's why she flipped back. And her pedal bone, in a laminitic horse is, normally rotated. She was like this in her radiographs. I wonder if I can quickly find that. Let me pause the recording and I'll quickly find that. Yes. All right. So this is her radiograph. Can you see how flat her pedal bone is? That's at this point, right? You can see how much she's curled here, but look, she's lower here. Isn't that weird? She's lower on this side, higher here, but curling under. This was like, how would you know to trim that without radiographs? So that's her ads. Yes. There we go. That's how I would trim this pony. Her name was Lady Glitter Sparkles. She was named by a little girl. Here's our dramatic before and after. So that's from the side. What are our dates here? March to end of August. That's pretty dramatic. And that is how extreme posture can cause extreme hoof distortions caused by front end being sore. All right, this guy's interesting. This is a thoroughbred. He had quite a lot of hind end issues, which we never ended up getting to the bottom of because unfortunately he had a paddock accident and had to be euthanized. So this guy, you can look at this. I want you guys to focus on the left hind, right? Doesn't look too bad. He's quite straight there, right? I don't think there's any, I mean, he's obviously twisted here, but he's standing with that left hind quite out behind him. Why is he doing that? I wonder. I think he had sacro issues because he would habitually stand in this posture with the right hind back behind him, pushing on the outside heel, flaring on the inside. You can see the curl in this foot here, right? See the curl there? So that inside would flare and the outside would curl under. You can see it on this one here. So it's not too bad. He's kind of straight, and then he deviates to the inside here. So this is the inside of his foot here. And there's quite a lot of flare there. You can see that whole foot is kind of going like this. I'll do it from behind. Going like that, right? This is the foot. So that's the inside there, that flared side. You can see the whole foot is shunting to the inside here. You've got uneven lateral cartilages. The frog is off center. I'll show you, the next slide's pretty good. This is the sole. You can see the whole frog is shunted to the inside. This heel is run forward, right? So there's your weight-bearing surface there. Run that across here. And there's back here is the first weight-bearing surface on this heel. And that's where that one is. Look at the difference in the heel bulbs. This one's more forward. This one's pushed back and up. Which one is correct? I think somewhere in the middle is correct. Even the wear on this foot. Look, before we even get to the wear, look at this bar. Look at the curl in this bar, this huge curl, because that heel's so far pushed forward because of that posture. Because he heavily leans on that outside, and the whole inside of the foot runs, it curls, it flares, and it runs forward. Anyway, look at the wear. Can you see the wear pattern on the sole here? Look how the wear is much more invasive of the sole on the inside, and it comes out here and ends here. So much more. So the way I'd trim this guy was I would straighten up the frog, I'd straighten up the bar, I'd cut this little curl out of his heel here, right? I'd open up the inside, the central sulcus, so that because like that's not comfortable to stand on for a horse when they have this big hard frog in a desert type foot. I'd tidy up this side of the frog. I probably wouldn't do anything with this heel. I'd take away a bit of the photo. This horse had already been on my books for a little while by the time I took these photos. I'd take away the flare here, and he was also on a very short cycle. I would knock some of this off. That's it. There's not much more to do with that guy. So that's a thoroughbred with a right hind upper body issue, and the way he moved, his static movement and his posture really affected this foot. How hoof care ties in. So I touched on this before. You need to trim your foals from 4 weeks of age. Most big name breeders are pretty good with noticing angular limb deformities in their foals and can get on top of it really quickly. The way that a foal's limb, the way that foals grow, bones grow, is they've got epiphyseal plates, which are growth plates. Some of you might be familiar with that. At either end, like if, you know, in the long pastern bone here, there'd be one here and there'd be one here. And those grow, right, in response to the pressures that are put upon it. So if you've got a baby foal that chips off the inside of its foot, right, and it leans, and so then, like they say, it gets tall, chips off the inside, outside still high, it'll turn this way. You know, it'll turn that way, right? Then there's going to be more pressure on the inside and less pressure on the outside. So the more pressure, the more growth. That's going to grow longer, which is going to push that bone even more that way. That's how you end up with horses that turned out, because they're not looked after correctly as babies. So if you ever breed a foal, or if you ever buy a foal, make sure that you have it trimmed, at least looked at by a professional from 4 weeks of age. They might not necessarily need a trim. If they get enough movement, they wear their feet. They've only got little feet. They wear their feet. They move around so much, but it's got to be even wear. Yeah, have them checked from 4 weeks of age every 4 weeks, not at 6 months, because, you know, this growth plate's closed. This growth plate is starting to be closed. This one's starting to close. Not at 18 months, not at 2 years old when it's getting its first set of shoes on. Once those growth plates are closed, that's it. You've got a wonky leg. So get onto it early. Short cycles, 4 weeks. Very, very important to have, especially horses with angular limb deformities, to have them on short cycles. You cannot trim a horse straight. If it's a mature horse and it's already got an angular limb deformity, you can't trim it straight, right? But like that, like this guy right at the beginning of the thing, he wears really badly here, which makes him even more pigeon-toed, right? So if we let the inside, that it doesn't wear, because he doesn't break over there, it doesn't wear, it wears a little bit, but it doesn't wear anywhere, like probably 80% less than the other side. That would just make it more pigeon-toed, put more strain on those collateral ligaments on either side of the joint that are stretched already. It's going to put more strain on those. You'll end up blowing a collateral ligament. So short cycles to keep as close to balanced as possible. Now, when we talk about balance, we're talking about joint spaces, right? So that's why I have this radiograph here. This is that pony mare from before with this is one of her front feet. So we don't have, like, trimmers and farriers don't have x-ray vision, but we can, you know, we're very familiar with the anatomy. There's like landmarks that you can, bony landmarks you can palpate and have a feel, like you can palpate this and have a feel with that. But can you see how this bone, like it's not exactly straight on, but everything's a bit bigger on the outside, on the inside. I can't remember if this is left or right. I'm pretty sure it's a left front foot. She would turn out. So everything's kind of a bit bigger on this side, but you can visualize it, but it really is best to go from radiographs. If your horse has got pigeon toes, splayed foot, bow-legged, any of that kind of thing, do yourself a favor and get radiographs for your farrier or trimmer to trim to. So you can see here, look at the bottom of this horse's foot. She's shorter on this side and longer on this side. Because she's longer on this side, that's pushing up on this side of the limb. So let's start at the top. Let's look at our joint spaces. Here, it's very, very subtle. You can barely tell. This is a little bit pinched here and a little bit wider here. You can barely tell. And it could be the way she's leaning as well. Yes, there's lean and blah, blah, blah. But this is just an example. Here at this joint, it's pinched here and a little bit more open here. I hope you can appreciate that. But look at this joint space. This is really obvious. Look how close this is here and look how wide this is here. And yeah, we're turned out and all the rest of it, but this is just an example. And then your blood vessel holes here are even, so I know that this bone is straight, but this bone, this is not, right? So because this is tall here, it's pushing this side closed and it's opening this side. So then you're going to end up with collateral ligament strain. Then we look at balanced landings, and I've got some videos to show you. I've got various videos to go through. I'm already at 24 minutes, so probably 10 more minutes looking at videos and then we'll be done. I take a lot of slow motion videos. So when a horse is landing, when they're coming towards you, you want to see the hoof come through and land as slightly heel first or heel first, depending on how fast they're going, but at the walk, slightly heel first. And you want both heels to land at the same time or very close to, right? Same time, or maybe a little bit on the outside first. And you want a slow, soft landing. You don't want hit hard on the outside and snap to the inside. So I've got some videos to show you. Now, I might just grab those videos up. So we'll pause. All right, so this is Bones from the beginning of the video, the really badly pigeon-toed horse. Now, as he comes around the corner, I want you to look at his left front, so the one that's on the right side of the video. I want you to see how he uses that foot, the really badly pigeon-toed foot. So it's pointing this way. See how he breaks over on the outside? Let's slow this down. Can I slow this down? I cannot slow this down. I'm sorry, guys. Let's look at it again. As he comes through, he points in. Look how much strain he's putting on his fetlock on this side. look where the fetlock is, way out here. Where's that pressure going? Let's see if I can pause it at the right time. Okay, his foot's here. It's look at the fetlock here. It's sinking down this way. All of that is coming to the outside of the foot. There's no foot or very little foot underneath the like the weight of the limb, the gravity of the limb. There's very little there. So he's being supported by his soft tissue every step. Very difficult for a horse. Let him come through. Watch him turn. Now this guy, he's very well managed now, and he's currently at the trainers for team roping, and he's going really well. So that's that guy. Thoroughbred. This is a thoroughbred with fetlock Varus. So that's where he is. Let me just bring it over onto my shared screen. He's only, well, his worst foot is this one, but we're looking at this one. I just trimmed this foot. He's landing toe first. He's landing very heavily on the outside. Okay, I want you to watch these. It's already slow. Okay, let's make it bigger. See how he lands on the outside and comes down to the inside? Let's watch this one come through. He even touches his toe. He's not bringing that limb through very well at all. He's landing toe first. It's not a fun time for a horse. Watch this one come through. He's winging in, and then he's landing toe first and slightly on the outside. Let's watch this last one come through. I'm pretty sure that's our last step that we see in this video. Come through, lands very obviously on the outside and then to the inside. So what I did then was make a trim adjustment after this, where I trimmed down the outside of this horse's foot a little bit more, trimmed down the heel a little bit more, trimmed down the toe pillar a little bit more. And then he started landing flat, which I don't have a video of course, because I was just doing this as an like to see. This is a really good one. This is an Appaloosa mare, pigeon-toed as well. Now, her right front foot, which is the one on the left side of the video, I just trimmed it and I was doing slow motion to see how she was landing. And then the left front foot, I hadn't trimmed yet. Now, so it's quite long on the toe, and it looks terrible. So, and she was overdue. But it's interesting to see the difference. Let's watch. Let's make it bigger. So is this the highest quality we got? Yeah. So look at how heavily she lands on the outside. Bang, boom. And she's heel first, which is good. This is definitely 720p. This is the untrimmed foot. She lands heel first and flat. She does move it in underneath the limb a bit, and she is she's a little bit less pigeon-toed on this one than the right front. Here she comes through. That's more of a flat landing, but it was slightly lateral or outside first. Coming through here, ignore the owner. We don't care about how they're landing. That was a little bit slightly outside heel first into the inside. And this is very difficult for this mare to walk on. Very hard, rocky surface. So she would land a little bit lateral first, on the outside first on this leg, but not too bad where I felt like I had to make too much of an adjustment for her. This is where we are making decisions based on, and sometimes we make compromises between our static balance and our dynamic balance. My last look, nice and flat. Is there a better one? I think this one, yeah, quite, but she just finished her turn. All right, let's move on because it's going to take forever otherwise. I'm going to leave that to near the last. Let's look at this age Shire mare. So this mare is an older, she's 20, I don't know, 25 or something like that, and she cannot, I'm leading her out, and she cannot bring her feet out the back, her hind feet, she can't bring them out the back to, can we change it playback speed? We can. Let's do half pace. We can't, she can't bring it out the back to trim it or even to pick it out. So this mare, I have to bring her forward and put her on the stand. She has upper body issues where she cannot bring that leg out the back whatsoever. So let's watch her move. Now I want you to watch how her hock moves. I know it's hard with the tail in the way, but see how it comes in and then it wobbles. When she puts her foot on the ground, we have a wobble, 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 like before it goes. Very unstable hocks, this mare. Very unstable. She doesn't like wobble, wobble. Then when I turn to the left here, I want you to watch the way her fetlocks. So a horse should land heel first, right? Fronts and backs. This mare doesn't land heel first. She lands toe first and kind of skids in. And her fetlock never really kind of fully extends. It's always slightly flexed. So watch this left front especially. See how the fetlock is still, you can still see the bump of the fetlock? Oh, when it's not behind weeds, sorry. Yeah, see it? And then it goes click. And sometimes it doesn't even click. Oh, that's not too bad. Actually, she's landing a little bit heel first. I bet you we're coming downhill. That's the difference. So that's a consideration for me during trimming, because I can make her sore by trying to force her joints and her body to go into a way that that they can't go. There's obviously, this is a rescue mare. We're not going to get any diagnostics done on her, unfortunately, but she just needs to be able to walk around the paddock so she can do her job with the trims that she gets. So sometimes your horse might be sore after a trim, and it might not necessarily be foot sore. Might be joint sore, might be soft tissue. Quarter horse mare, right hind. Oh, this is a really good one. So this mare, she's a quarter horse mare, and she started falling over. Her right hind would slip out from underneath her and she'd fall over in the paddock. And she was on my books for a while before that started happening, and she always kind of would flare a little bit on the inside and roll her outside heel under. But it got worse, and then because of the way that she moves. Now, I will slow down the playback. So I want you to watch her right hind, the way she brings it through, and see how the fetlock comes out. She'll place it in. See how she's wide in the hocks and base narrow. So she's bow-legged and base narrow. Look at the way that limb moves. I know she was about to turn. Let's come back a scooch. We'll go back to here. But the other hind does it too, but this one's worse. Can you see? And she's got a shoe on. So she's got a shoe on here with lateral support. So support glue on the outside. I've got like a little lateral wedge to help her there. And even when she doesn't walk straight either. It's more obvious when she comes back this way, but she almost walks on 3 tracks or slightly 4 tracks with this left hind. And look at the hocks, instability in the hocks as well. The hocks are unstable, and she's very well managed. She's old laminitis, like she's used to have laminitis, and she gets body work regularly, trimmed every 4 weeks. Like she's out of shoes now and doing really well. So when she comes around here, let's go faster. Watch the way this leg moves and this leg. So this leg, she keeps it. See how she won't move straight? See how you can see this side of her body quite a lot, and then this leg is really way underneath her. I wonder what's going on there, upper body. And she wobbles those hocks out, and the fetlocks wobble out as well. She's very narrow. So trimming and shoeing consideration there is to give her some lateral support. Try and straighten up those outside heels. And then we can have a look a bit at her landing. See how she turns out with this foot? See, flat landing heel first. Flat landing heel first. Flat landing heel first, even though she's toed out. Anyway, so that's that mare. I've got 2 more Arab warm blood mares to show. One's mine, one's not. This one's not my mare. She's shot up front, and we had some problems with her hind feet, her hind shoes. We didn't have the size shoe we needed, and she can't really go bare behind because she does drag her toes at the walk. But look at how joyfully this mare moves in the trot. I won't even do slow. Look at this joyful movement. Doing, 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 tossing the head, happy movement. She's being a cheeky chops because we're trying to get out the gate. She wants to get out the gate. Let's do some, so I want you to notice, let's go even slower. I want you to notice heel first landings here. Straight knee before the leg hits the ground. Straight knee before the leg hits the ground. Straight knee before the leg. Tiny little toe flicks. Tiny little toe flicks. Tiny little toe flicks. That's the way you want your horse to be landing. Heel first. She's a cutie pops. I like that horse. She's got sass for days. And then here we go, my own mare. So my own mare has a lot of hind end issues. She broke her left hind cannon bone, and her right hind fetlock is dusty and she's got hockey shoes and blah, blah, blah. And she's only 14, but she hasn't done much work. But this is her shod up front. And this is a really nice video of how, now she's got wearing bell boots, yes, but look at the heel first landing. Look at the beautiful, and then she goes into a really nice transition into canter right here with my dog thinking he's helping. Again, joyful movement, happy movement. You can kind of see in the hind end here, watch the white foot, how she dips down, see how she touches, she goes doop and touches the ground. Even though she's got so much exuberant movement, that's the side where she broke her leg. She's got such exuberant movement that she doop, there it is, touches the ground with that left hind, still heel first, and then doop, and then lands. The other one, the right hind, she doesn't do that. And then nearly touches the ground there, but she's going into a transition, so she had to sit back a little bit. One more time. So she wears that toe because she drags it, right? Because she had a broken leg, a suspensory. She's got sore hock, you know, but she can still work. So that's one of her movement issues. But she was moving awesome this day, and I just had to take a video, and it's a really good video of her moving, especially with the transition. Really lovely heel first movement. Anyway, this is super long, 38 minutes. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hello. There we go. Thank you very much for watching this little presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to contact me on Facebook or on Instagram. So on Facebook, I'm The Glorious Hoof. On Instagram, I'm at The Glorious Hoof AU for Australia. There's no other Glorious Hoof, but you know, that's what I made it when I first made my Instagram. Yeah, I love discussing this stuff. I love watching videos of movement. I love talking about how it affects the feet. So yeah, contact me if you need any more information. Thank you.